Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are going to crack open the Home Appraisers Toolkit. Have you ever wondered what they're actually looking for when they walk through your house, clipboard in hand? Well, we're about to go through their checklist, piece by piece, to figure out what really boosts your home's value and maybe what doesn't as much as you'd think.
I mean, this is the big one, isn't it? Sometimes it's literally the million-dollar question. Whether you're trying to buy, sell, or refinance, this one number that an appraiser comes up with can change absolutely everything. So how in the world do they land on that final number? Well, I can tell you it's not a guess. It's a full-on investigation.
So at its heart, an appraisal is really just a professional opinion of value. But, and this is a big but, it's an opinion that's backed up by a super strict, rigorous process. You should think of it as part science, measuring rooms, counting bathrooms, comparing data, and part art, where the appraiser has to use their professional judgment to weigh all the different factors.
To make sense of that whole process, you just have to know that an appraiser's entire mission, their entire investigation, really rests on two fundamental pillars. Once you get these two things, you'll understand exactly how they think. Okay, so pillar number one is the house itself. Its size, its condition, all the features it has. That's the physical property. Pillar number two is the world that house lives in, its location, the neighborhood, and crucially, what other similar homes have sold for nearby. That's the market context. Because think about it, a fantastic house in a struggling market just isn't going to appraise for the same as that exact same house in a neighborhood that's booming.
So let's start our little virtual tour exactly where the appraiser does, right at the curb. The outside of your home, it tells the first chapter of its story. And trust me, appraisers are experts at reading it.
They're literally doing a full 360-degree scan of the property. They're looking up at the roof for missing shingles, down at the foundation for cracks, over at the siding for any damage. They're also making a note of your landscaping and any extras like a deck or a pool. But what they are really hunting for are red flags, signs of leaks, potential hazards, or just major maintenance that's been put off for way too long.
Now check this out, because this is where it gets really specific. It's not just about whether a roof is leaking right now. If an appraiser looks at it and determines, you know what, this thing is on its last legs and it's probably not going to make it another 2 years, that is a major flag that has to go in the report.
And this little graphic here perfectly illustrates what happens next. That noted issue, especially something as critical as a failing roof, can actually trigger a requirement from the lender. They might say, nope, we're not closing this loan until that repair is made. So it goes from a simple observation to a potential deal breaker, just like that.
All right, so curb appeal is one thing. Now we're stepping through the front door. This is where the appraiser's focus shifts from the outer shell of the structure to all the core systems that actually make a house a functioning, livable home.
Okay, in here, the appraiser is basically checking the home's vital signs. Does the heat kick on? Does the AC blow cold? Does the water run? They're confirming that all the major systems, your plumbing, your electrical, your HVAC, are up and running. If there's one word to remember for this whole section, it's functionality. And this is a really, really important distinction to make. You might absolutely love your fancy, high-end, chef-grade stove. But to the appraiser, the main question is just, does it work? A standard working stove and a super luxury one are often treated very, very similarly in the final report, as long as they both do the basic job they're supposed to do.
It's a great question, isn't it? And the answer is, kinda. While they might not give you a dollar-for-dollar return in the appraisal value, they definitely contribute to the overall impression of a well-maintained, modern home. And that can absolutely influence the appraiser's more subjective judgment about the home's overall quality and condition.
So if that last part was all about functionality, does it work? This section is all about condition. Now they're looking at the wear and tear on the floors, the scuffs on the walls, the state of the windows. Is the home in pristine, move-in ready shape, or is it showing its age a bit? This is where that subjective assessment we were just talking about really comes into play. Okay, now we're getting to the real core of the property, the things that are the hardest and most expensive to change. We are talking about the fundamental structure, the overall size, and maybe most importantly, its safety.
This is where the appraiser kind of becomes a data collector. They'll get out their tape measure and measure the gross living area, which is just a fancy term for the heated, finished square footage above the ground. They'll do an official count of every room, bedroom, and bathroom. They'll note the garage, check out the basement and attic. These are the hard numbers that become the baseline for finding those comparable homes later on. But it's not just about the numbers, not at all. A huge part of their job is to act as a second set of eyes for the lender, almost like a safety inspector.
They are actively on the lookout for anything that could pose a risk to the people living there or to the structural integrity of the house itself. And these right here, these are the showstoppers. We're talking about huge red flags, like big structural cracks, signs of water damage, evidence of termites. Any one of these can bring a home loan to a screeching halt. The lender just won't sign off on the financing until these kinds of serious issues are fixed. And hey, speaking of chipping paint, here's a number you should probably remember: 1978. If a home was built before that year, government regulations require appraisers to check for and report any defective, peeling, or chipping paint because it could be a lead-based paint hazard. It's just one of those very specific rules that shows you how seriously they take safety. So we've gone through the house with a fine-tooth comb. But remember that second pillar we talked about? A house doesn't exist in a bubble. Now the appraiser zooms out and starts to assess the neighborhood, the street, and the broader market. They're asking all sorts of questions. Is the house right on a noisy, busy street? Is the neighborhood well kept with lots of proud homeowners, or are there a bunch of vacant or foreclosed properties nearby? Does the house kind of fit in with its surroundings, or does it stick out like a sore thumb? All of these neighborhood factors play a massive role in that final number.
And this, right here, this is the grand finale of the whole appraisal process. The appraiser takes all the data they've collected on your house and finds 3 to 5 very similar properties, the comps, that have sold right there in the area very recently. Then, they make adjustments. For example, if your neighbor's house that just sold has a brand new kitchen and yours is 20 years old, they'll subtract a bit of value from that neighbor's sales price to make it a fair comparison. It's this careful process of adjustments that lets them zero in on your home's actual market value.
So let's just recap that whole journey real quick. We start outside, where the key focus is on condition. Then we move inside to check the home's vital signs, and that's all about functionality. After that, we check the bones of the house, and the name of the game there is safety. And finally, we look at the neighborhood and the market to establish comparability. See? Each step has a very clear purpose, and they all build on each other to get to that final value. And really, when you boil it all down, that's what this is all about. An appraisal takes the brick, the wood, and the drywall that you call home, and it translates all of that into a number, a value that a bank or a financial institution can actually understand and lend money against. It's the bridge that connects your physical property to the financial world.
So, next time you walk around your own property, try to look at it through an appraiser's eyes. Think about its condition, its functionality, and its place in the neighborhood. Because every single detail, big and small, is another sentence in the story that ultimately determines what your home is truly worth. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.